Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for clicking on this Rank the Movies video. I am Martin Prevost. Happy holidays to you all. Merry Christmas. We are so close to that very festive day itself, Christmas Eve. It is tomorrow is Christmas Eve, from when this video goes out. Earlier this week, of course, you could have watched my video, the commentary that was released featuring myself, AJ Robinson and Courtney Krause, as we talk about Die Hard, and we watch Die Hard, and we have a commentary track for that. That came out on Monday. Yesterday, I dropped my weekly video where I talked about Fred Claus and that horrid idea of a movie with very questionable aging on all the characters and how did their lives go. I'm not getting back into that. I'm knocking things over. I decided to drop one extra video this week, one bonus video, if you will, because I got the pleasure with one of my other friends, who you've not seen on this channel yet, to actually sit down and watch Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the live action, and The Grinch, the animated one from Illumination. And I decided, why don't I do a comparison of the three? As a little Christmas bonus treat, let's do a comparison of some Grinch, baby. I know there's other Grinch media out there. There's a crossover with Cat in the Hat I remember from when I was a kid. And I think there's a musical version now on Peacock. Those I won't be covering. I'll just be covering the primary three entries, which means, of course, I'm starting with the animated classic, Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, starring Boris Karloff as the voice of the Grinch and the narrator. This is basically a direct adaptation of the storybook that came out. Like, they really don't add anything to it. They don't subtract anything from it either. Obviously, this is where you get the song You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, performed marvelously by Tony the Tiger. I can't remember the singer's actual name. I just know he's most famous for saying, "It's great!" I don't know why I rolled my R so much. But yeah, you get the Grinch. He is unhappy with it being Christmas time in Whoville. And he decides to destroy the Who's Christmas by stealing it. Stealing every tree, every stocking, every wreath, every present, every light in town, and throwing it off of his home of Mount Crumpet. So he sets out to do this by dressing up as Santa, and he makes his dog Max become his reindeer, and he goes off into the night stealing Christmas from all the Who's down in Whoville. The Who's wake up, find their stuff is gone, but they still celebrate anyways. And the Grinch, hearing their celebration, his heart grows 3 sizes because his heart was medically small. He had a medical condition which somehow fixed itself because of the Who's singing. Because Christmas came without. I don't even want to try. I'm not going to try. It is too early in the morning for me when I filmed this for me to try to throw out some Dr. Seuss gibberish. So I'm not. But it's a classic. It's a short game. It's a 20-something minute movie or film special. That's a real classic. It really is. It's very entertaining. It's a lot of fun. And again, Boris Karloff's voice is so good. This, of course, was released in, I should look these things up before I start filming, but, where's the fun in that? It was originally made in, if I can ever find a year, 1966. So 1966 is when the original special was released. It would take 30 plus years before a new version of it made, which is Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. The live-action version made in 2000, starring Jim Carrey. I don't own a copy of this movie, and we'll get into that. That's going to be the bulk of this review, most likely, is my thoughts on that movie. Because I've watched it a couple of times in my life. Every time I've watched it, I've not been super impressed by it. I am impressed by, the makeup, although, let me tell you, the baby Grinch puppet is horrifying. I don't know why. I've never thought it was horrifying until I watched it yesterday. I watched it yesterday and went, that is horrifying. That is the stuff of nightmares. But yeah. So right off the bat, I was jokingly critical about this movie when I was watching with my friend because that's the one they watched the most. They'd actually never seen the Illumination one, so we were kind of trading Grinch as we were going. So I made it very clear that my comments weren't me saying the movie was bad, because I get it. I get why people like that movie. I can see it. Like, Jim Carrey's great in it. Like, I'm not going to badmouth Jim Carrey at all, because he does great with that role, and I feel like they really let him make that his role. Because he's hilarious in that movie. He's really fun. And, yeah, there's so much praise. I love the giant monkey. I forgot about the giant cymbal monkey bit, which I lost it, mainly because where the hell did they get a giant cymbal monkey? And was that planned? Like, did he request a giant cymbal monkey, so they made one? Or was that in the script? Did somebody else come up with giant cymbal monkey? Like, I'm more curious about that. But yeah, overall, it's a fine movie. It is. It's an enjoyable film. They, of course, they can't just do the 20-something minute animated, because now you've got an hour. That one's an hour and 45 minutes, so you have to fill that time. You have to fill that time with a story, and that story becomes Cindy Lou Who is way more than 2, but I'm going to start by saying I actually prefer Cindy Lou Who being older than 2. I think it just makes more sense. Like, rewatch this special. Seriously, rewatch it. That kid is 2. It has better language skills than most 2-year-olds I know, and for some reason sleeps with her family in a bed and sleeps at the end of the bed. Like, why would you put your 2-year-old at the end of the bed? They should be in the middle of the bed where they can't roll off and die. So yeah, so I prefer Cindy Lou Who being older than 2. So you have her, and she is very interested in the Grinch, finding out why he hates Christmas. You also get the idea that the Grinch comes from somewhere else, a different world on this snowflake, because they decided to go the Horton Hears a Who route, and that because there are Who's in that, and these are Who's, that the Whoosies are the sames, which, I mean, they probably are in Dr. Seuss's lore. I truly believe that's probably an accurate statement, but instead of them being on a speck of dust, which might be a very stationary item a lot of the time, they're on a snowflake. And I'm not 100% sure where this snowflake is falling. Is this literally just a Christmas snowflake? Like, I live in Wisconsin. If the Whoville is on a snowflake that lands in Wisconsin, that Whoville died at some point. Whether it be, like right now, snow isn't sticking around, or later in the year, it's going to melt in spring. So Whoville ain't living long. Like, these things must have a hugely fast lifespan. Because, yeah. And they say the Grinch in this one is 50-something. Now, obviously, if Who's have a faster lifespan, then 50 in Who time might be, like, 3 days in human time. We don't know. But I feel like the Who's have to have a very exorbitant lifespan. Also because the snowflake is still falling. You pull in to the Whoville, and the snowflake is falling. And the snowflake is still falling at the end of the movie. So the entire content of this movie, which is a couple of days, does take the time span of the snowflake falling to the ground, which I'm not sure how actual long it takes a snowflake once it's created to fall to the ground, but it had to have been falling longer because, all of these Who's had lives. And history in a book that is vaguely religious. So yeah, so you find out that the Grinch comes from somewhere else, so he's not actually a Who. And he hates Christmas because one year he was going to ask the pretty girl out and give her a present, but he decided to shave because nobody teaches puberty at Whoville, and he shaves and he nicks himself up, although he doesn't have a lot of hair, like the old Grinch does. Like Jim Carrey has hair that looks kind of like a beard, but the child Grinch doesn't have as much, or it's not as noticeable. So when he's got all the pieces of paper toweling and the Band-Aids on, I'm wondering what the hell he shaved. And that makes him decide he no longer wants to wear clothing, and he is going to go to Mount Crumpet and be the Grinch because he got rejected. Yeah, he wears clothing as a child and then no longer wears clothing as an adult. until he is forced to wear clothing again by the Who's. Cindy Lou wants to try to bring Christmas cheer to the Grinch, so she makes him their Cheermeister. They make him the Cheermeister, which requires him to ride around on a chair and eat a lot of food, which doesn't sound that bad, but he makes it look like it's torture. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. Eventually, he gets a present, which is a razor, reminding him of what he did as a child. So he freaks out, destroys Christmas, and this is what sets up him deciding to steal Christmas, with 4 hours before Christmas. Now, I don't know why they decided to say Christmas is in 4 hours, because it makes it sound like either he has 4 hours before he has to start stealing stuff, or he only has 4 hours to complete what he is stealing. And either way, what he does, like making his sleigh, his costume, seems like it would have taken way longer than the 4 hours before it was Christmas. But then he's got to wait for Santa, because apparently Santa goes to Whoville, exists in Whoville. But if the Who's timeline moves way faster, that means Santa would be going to Whoville, like, if he was human, like twice a day, probably? I don't know. Like, it's weird that they have Santa. Like, they have a scene where the Grinch watches Santa. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird. And then he goes, he steals Christmas, and then he's about to throw it off of Mount Crumpet, but everyone confronts the evil mayor, played by Jeffrey Tambor, and they realize they don't need things for Christmas, because this is a very consumerist Grinch who only believes things are what one needs for Christmas. And that is true in all the versions. They believe the things are what make Christmas Christmas, but this is the most vocal, like, ha ha ha, Christmas is all about the presents, 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 presents. And I think it's not done a great way in this one when he realizes, his heart grows the 3 sizes because there's more to Christmas. He then decides to not save the sleigh of things because he's not strong enough until the small child, Cindy Lou Who, is on top of it, which bugged the hell out of me. Just because, I like the fact that the Grinch's strength comes from his renewed Christmas spirit. That's what makes him be able to lift up the sleigh, or save the sleigh. That was what makes him does it, is that it is his renewed Christmas cheer and, his renewed happiness. Not, I have to save the child. So I thought that was unnecessary. And then the Grinch goes back and celebrates with the Who's, and everyone is happy, because it's the Grinch. And then we have the snowflake again. Those Who's are gonna die. They're gonna die horribly painful, hot deaths. Unless, of course, Whoville is falling in a snow globe, which they don't really make clear if it might be a snow globe, because then, they'll be safe. Or if it's, but even like in the Antarctic or something, that snow still melts eventually and gets renewed or becomes ice. Those Who's are dead. Those Who's are dead. And that brings us to the final version, which was released in 2017 or 18. I can't remember exactly, but it is Illumination's The Grinch, or Dr. Seuss's The Grinch, depending on if you want to stick Dr. Seuss's name on top of everything as an official part of the title. Benedict Cumberbatch is the voice of the Grinch in this one, and I love this movie. I think it's great. It's a lot of fun. What it does differently, because it does do a lot differently than the Jim Carrey version, which I don't think makes it better. I think it just shows that there are more choices to be made with fleshing this story out, which is being the fact that it is another version of it is what you want to see. Because they made the exact same choices, then it comes off more of an unneeded remake, whereas you can actually enjoy both versions of The Grinch and be completely satisfied, because although the core of the story is still the same, the outer wrapping becomes different, and so it becomes almost like a multiverse kind of Grinch, where this is the Grinch in this universe who isn't a Who and hates Christmas because of a razor, and this is a Grinch who is probably a Who who's just green and hates Christmas because he was an orphan and didn't actually get the Christmas spirit with his parents. So I think both are legitimate and both can be used very well. Also, like in the Jim Carrey version, the Who's are scared of him because he is they see him as a monster. Whereas this one, again, because I think he actually is a who is just green. He is seen more as just like the angry old grandpa yelling at a cloud. Uh, Also, they make different choices where you get the Cheermeister stuff to launch Grinch into his Grinchy ways. This one is basically PTSD. Makes of his unhappy childhood makes him launch into his choices. Also, this one spends a lot more time with him planning and executing Stealing Christmas than the Jim Carrey version. Which again, these are all choices. Which one choice, I don't think one choice is better than the other. I think they're both very valid and usable choices. I just prefer these choices more. Which is all you can do at this point. You can't say that, I'm not going to say one's horrible and one's not. I can prefer one over the other. Because like I said, I see why people really like the Jim Carrey version. It's weird, and that makeup is a little creepy, but it's still a decent version. It's still a good movie. It's just not for me, and I like this one better. So, but yeah, like I said, the Grinch basically comes off as a who. He's less mean to Max than either the Jim Carrey or the original animated. Like, he shows a lot more love to Max. Cindy Lou Who is, again, well more than two, and she is trying to capture Santa so he can ask him to watch out for his mom, which actually makes, the interaction later in the story that comes from the original, where the Grinch and Cindy Lou Who meet while he's stealing things, it makes that more realistic for the fact that Cindy Lou Who is older. Like, the whole I'm fixing the tree thing makes sense by itself when she's no more than two, but once she gets older, I feel like you need more to that conversation. There has to be more reason. Like, you can still use it and use the dialogue of, oh, this tree won't light in one spot, so I'm taking it to the North Pole to fix it. And then move on to the, hey, I want you to do something nice for my mom. Which is also now the opening catalyst for him going, crap, Christmas is more than just stuff. Christmas is actually about people, and there can be good in Christmas. Because he's talking to Cindy Lou. He still decides to go through with his plan, but his conversation with Cindy Lou kind of weighs on him. And then he hears the Who singing, because, Christmas wasn't stolen. And he, that's when his heart grows 3 sizes. He saves the sleigh with a little help from his reindeer and Max, and then he returns the stuff to the town. And instead of just being immediately accepted into the town, like in the Jim Carrey and the Boris Karloff, he actually goes back home and is invited to a Christmas party where he ends up sitting at the head of the table and cutting the roast beast. But yeah, it's a good version. I like the animated film version of the Grinch. I think it's a lot of fun. Again, if you're a Jim Carrey purist and that's your Grinch, go for it. Watch that one. Have fun with it. But yeah, I prefer the Illumination. I think, again, these two movies are different enough, other than one being live action and one being animated, that you can enjoy both. I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to do the Grinch story, as long as, he steals Christmas and then he realizes what he's done is wrong. I think that's the main crux of that story, and as long as that's there, I think the rest of it is just, building entertainment for people, and I think both versions do that very well. I do like the Grinch. I like the story. I think it's a lot of fun. But yeah, check one out if you haven't yet this holiday season. I mean, you still got today, you've got Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and who cares? Watch a Christmas movie after Christmas. It doesn't matter. But check out some Grinch. It is a good time. Alright, well, thank you for clicking on this video of Rank the Movies where I talked Grinch. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking some various Grinch films. I felt like I had another point. Who Hash! I wanted to talk about Who Hash! because I had to look it up, and apparently at Universal Studios, they sell Who Hash. That is a thing. That is a thing you can buy. And it's food. It's real food. But when I hear it in the movie, because it's in all of them, they say it in Dr. Seuss's, they say it in this one because it's part of the book, they say it in the Jim Carrey one, and it's in The Grinch. They don't actually say it. But you see him in a store and there's Who Hash. And I keep hearing it, and I keep thinking that it's like Soylent Green, and they're turning Who's into hash, and then they're eating it. That's what it sounds like. But it's not. It's like normal hash. At least when you buy it at Universal, because Who's aren't real, and you can't chop up a Who. But yeah, I just kept going. Are they cannibalistic? Are Who's the cannibals? That's an interesting dynamic. If they're cannibals, huh? Also, the narrator is very different in each version, because Boris Karloff narrates, Anthony Hopkins and Pharrell Williams narrates in the animated, and it's very different. It's a very different narration style, and each one is really good. That would almost be the thing I'd want to rank if I was, but I honestly don't know who I'd give the nod to, because each one is so good and so different than the other two. They're just all really fun. So yeah, I got on my rant I talked about Who Hash, which I really wanted to make sure I did. So enjoy your Christmas season. Enjoy the holidays. I will see you next Wednesday for my last Christmas movie I've never seen before. I know this answer. It's a Wonderful Life. I'm doing It's a Wonderful Life. I finally watched that one. Hear my thoughts on it next Wednesday. Other than that, I will see you later. Have a good one. Peace.